The folder on Marcus Hayes' desk had Eminem's mother's maiden name written on the tab. November 2009, NBC Studios. And that's when Eminem knew this wasn't just another interview. They'd gone into his family history, into sealed records, into things nobody should have had access to. Marcus Hayes sat across from him with that predator smile, fingers resting on that impossibly thick folder like it was a loaded gun. And Eminem's first thought was, how deep did they dig? The handshake had been too firm, the greeting too friendly. And now this. A folder marked Briggs sitting right there on the desk where millions of viewers could see it, where cameras could catch it, where Eminem would spend the entire interview staring at his family's secrets packaged for primetime destruction. What the hell was about to happen? His manager was backstage, and even from here Eminem could see the guy looked sick, pale, sweating, like he'd tried to stop this and failed. The crew was acting weird too. No eye contact, nervous movements. The makeup artist who'd done his face 20 minutes ago had whispered, "I'm sorry," as he left the chair. And at the time he'd thought she meant the foundation shade, but now he understood. They all knew what was coming. Everyone except the studio audience clapping and cheering, like this was just another celebrity chat, not knowing they were about to witness either a public execution or something else entirely. Marcus started the show smooth, professional. Welcome back. Tonight we've got MarshallMathers, better known as Eminem, one of the most controversial figures in music. Not biggest, not most successful, controversial. The word hung there like an accusation. The audience's applause faded and Marcus didn't wait. He went straight for it. "Marshall, we need to talk about your past. Your real past. Not the version you've sold in your music, but what actually happened." He reached for the folder, opened it, and Eminem saw pages and pages of documents, photographs, court records, things that shouldn't exist anymore, things that had been sealed, buried, forgotten. How did they get this? Marcus pulled out the first document. 1995, Detroit. You were arrested for assault. The charges were dropped, but the police report tells a very different story than what you've said publicly. He started reading. Details about a fight outside a club. Names Eminem hadn't heard in 15 years. And here's what made it devastating. Some of it was true. Twisted, taken out of context, missing the full story, but true enough that he couldn't just deny it. That was the genius of it. Mix truth with lies until nobody can tell the difference. The audience was quiet now. Uncomfortable. This wasn't fun. This was personal, invasive, but Marcus kept going. Document after document. A child support case from when he was barely 18. Medical records from when his daughter was born. Financial records from before he was famous, showing debts, evictions, desperation. Each piece carefully selected to paint a picture of someone unstable, someone violent, someone who shouldn't be a role model for millions of kids. And that's when Eminem noticed something. Marcus wasn't just reading randomly. There was an order to this, a building narrative. Each revelation designed to set up the next one, climbing towards something bigger. What was the end game here? Was he building towards something even worse? The guy in the gray suit in the front row was taking notes. No expression, just writing everything down. Was he recording every word for someone else? A woman next to him kept checking her phone, then looking at Eminem, then checking her phone again. Were they coordinating this in real time? Was this going out somewhere else? To people waiting to use this information, Marcus pulled out a photograph. Grainy old but clear enough. Young Eminem at what looked like a party. This was taken in 1994. Do you remember this night? Eminem looked at it. He did remember, sort of. That whole year was a blur of bad decisions and worse situations. But why was this photograph important? What was Marcus building toward? Why show this specific night? This party, Marcus continued, was hosted by James Kellerman. Does that name mean anything to you? And there it was. The name that made everything else make sense. The name that connected dots Eminem hadn't even known needed connecting. But how deep did the connection go? What else did Marcus know? James Kellerman, a music executive who'd tried to sign Eminem in 1996, back when he was nobody, who'd offered him a deal that would have given Kellerman total control over his career, who'd threatened him when Eminem said no, who died in 2007, or so everyone thought. James Kellerman, Marcus said, was found dead 2 years ago, officially ruled a suicide. But there are questions. Questions about his business practices, questions about artists he controlled, and questions about what happened to people who refused to work with him. Was Marcus implying what it sounded like he was implying? That Eminem had something to do with Kellerman's death? That was insane. That was beyond insane. But looking at Marcus's face, at the careful way he was presenting this, Eminem realized this wasn't about truth. This was about creating doubt, about planting seeds, about making millions of people wonder. Was that the real goal? Not to prove anything, but just to make people question? The audience was riveted now. This had gone from uncomfortable to shocking. Social media had to be exploding. TMZ probably already had the clips, and Eminem was sitting there live on national television, being accused of what exactly? Marcus never said it directly, but the implication was clear. How many other people were watching this and believing it? Eminem felt that old anger rising, the same fury that had powered his most vicious tracks. But getting angry was exactly what they wanted. They wanted him to explode, to threaten, to prove their narrative right. So he pushed it down, stayed calm, waited. Because something about this whole thing felt off. Not just wrong, but strategically off. Like Marcus was playing a game without knowing someone had changed the rules. The questions kept coming, but now they were different. Softer. About his relationship with Dr. Dre, about his record label, about decisions he'd made, deals he'd signed, people he'd trusted. And that's when Eminem started to see the real pattern. This wasn't about his past. Not really. This was about his present. About his independence. About the fact that he owned his own masters, controlled his own career, answered to nobody. But how long had they been planning this? Months? Years? Marcus shifted tactics, pulled out financial documents. Your company lost money in 2007. Almost went under, according to these reports. Yet you refused several bailout offers, several partnerships that would have saved you. Why? Because those partnerships came with strings, Eminem thought. With control clauses, with people who wanted to own him. But he didn't say that, not yet. He was starting to understand the full scope of what was happening here. This wasn't just an interview. It was a negotiation tactic. Public pressure to force his hand. Make him look unstable, controversial, desperate. Then swoop in with a rescue offer. Classic corporate warfare. But who had designed this strategy? Was Marcus even smart enough to orchestrate all this? Marcus kept pressing. You've had public feuds with other artists. Behavior that some would call erratic. Relationships that ended badly. Your ex-wife has made statements about your temper, your control issues. Do you think you have a problem with authority? There it was, the psychological angle. Paint him as unstable, as someone who can't work with others, someone who needs management, needs control, needs someone to save him from himself. But was this really about psychology? Or was it just another pressure point? The audience was uncomfortable again, but differently now. Some looked sympathetic to Eminem, others looked concerned. Marcus was good at this. He'd done his homework. Every question designed to chip away, to create doubt, to make people wonder if maybe Eminem really was the problem. And here's the thing, some of it was fair. He had fought with people. He had burned bridges. His personal life was messy. But context mattered. Why he'd fought. Why he'd burned those bridges. Who he'd been fighting against. And Marcus was deliberately leaving out all of that context, presenting a version of events that served his narrative. Was this how they operated with everyone? Build a case using partial truths? Marcus pulled out another document. 3 months ago, you were approached about selling your record label. A very generous offer, tens of millions of dollars. You said no. Can you tell us why? There it was. The real question. The one all of this had been building toward. And suddenly the folder, the documents, the accusations, all of it made sense. This was leverage. This was pressure. This was someone trying to destroy him publicly because they couldn't control him privately. Eminem looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. Saw the sweat on his forehead. The way his hands shook slightly when he wasn't holding the papers. The nervous glances toward the control room. Marcus wasn't the architect here. He was just the weapon. But who was pulling the trigger? Could it be someone in that control room? Or watching from somewhere else? The studio audience was completely silent now. Nobody coughing. Nobody moving. Just watching, waiting. Was everyone feeling this tension? Did they sense something bigger was happening? And Eminem made a decision. He smiled, not a nervous smile, not a fake smile, a genuine smile of understanding. You know what's interesting, Marcus? His voice was calm, controlled. You've done a lot of research into my past. Really impressive work. Must have taken months. But there's one thing you forgot to research. He let the pause hang there. Let Marcus start to sweat more. Let the audience lean forward. You forgot to research what happens when you come at me. The shift was immediate. The control room producer started making signals. The cameras were still rolling. This was live, no takebacks. See, here's the thing about that folder, Eminem continued. It's impressive, really. Someone went deep. Court records, medical records, sealed documents. That's not easy to get. That's expensive. That takes connections. So I started asking myself, who has that kind of money? That kind of access? That kind of motivation? Marcus tried to interrupt. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. Eminem cut him off. I'm telling you. Someone wanted me on this show, specifically tonight. They wanted this ambush. They wanted these documents read on air. And when my team tried to cancel last week saying I was sick, your network threatened breach of contract. You ever threaten a breach lawsuit over a talk show appearance, Marcus? The audience was starting to understand. You could feel the energy shifting. This wasn't just an interview anymore. This was something bigger. My team did some digging too, Eminem said. Found out some interesting things about your show. About consultants you brought on board recently. About where your funding comes from. About who's really calling the shots. He was building now, piece by piece, not giving away too much. Just enough to make people wonder. That name you mentioned, James Kellerman. He didn't die in 2007, he faked his death. Tax fraud, FBI was closing in. He went to ground, changed his name, kept working in the industry through shell companies. You know who he works for now, Marcus? The studio went dead silent. Even the crew had stopped moving. He works for the same people who tried to buy my label 3 months ago. The same people who've been buying up independent labels across the industry. The same people who offered you a very lucrative consulting deal right before you invited me on this show. Marcus's face went white. I can't comment on. You don't have to comment, Eminem said. The documents speak for themselves. My lawyers have copies. So do several journalists. So does the FBI, actually. Because it turns out fake deaths and shell companies are kind of their thing. The audience erupted. Some people standing, some just shocked. The man in the gray suit was already heading for the exit. The woman with the phone looked panicked. And Marcus sat there realizing his ambush had just been turned against him. But Eminem wasn't done. Because this was the moment. This was the 70% mark where everything had to come together. Where the real truth had to drop. But here's what you really didn't know, Eminem said, and his voice got quieter, more intense. James Kellerman didn't just try to sign me in 1996, he had my father on payroll. My father, who abandoned me when I was a kid, who I hadn't seen in years. Kellerman found him, put him on payroll, had him try to reconnect with me, try to manipulate me into signing. And when I found out when I refused, Kellerman tried to destroy me back then too. Started rumors, blocked opportunities, made sure nobody would sign me. That's why it took so long for me to break through. That's why I had to fight so hard for every single opportunity. Because I said no to him once and he spent years making me pay for it. The studio was absolutely silent now. This was the real story, the deeper layer, the personal connection that made everything else make sense. So when they came back 3 months ago, when they offered me millions to sell my label, to sign over my masters, to basically hand them control over everything I'd built, I didn't just say no because of business. I said no because I knew what they really wanted. They wanted to finish what Kellerman started in 1996. They wanted to own me, control me, make sure I could never be independent again. He looked directly at the camera now, speaking to millions. And this whole thing tonight? This ambush with the documents and the allegations and the implications? This was their response. If I won't sell, they'll destroy me publicly, make people doubt me, make me toxic so nobody wants to work with me. Classic Kellerman move. Except I've been dealing with his playbook for almost 30 years. And I'm still here. The applause started, then grew, then became deafening. People on their feet. Even some crew members clapping. And Marcus sat there, destroyed, knowing his career had just ended live on television. Eminem stood up, looked at Marcus one more time. You were just doing your job, I get it. But you should have asked yourself why they needed you to do it. What they were really afraid of. Because people don't try this hard to destroy someone unless that person has power they can't control. He walked off the stage. Didn't run, Just walked away like he'd already won. Backstage was chaos. His manager grabbed him, eyes wild. How did you know about Kellerman? About your father? We didn't have that information. I've always known, Eminem said quietly. I just never told anyone. Some things you keep buried, but when they threatened everything I built, when they tried to use my past against me, I decided it was time to bury them instead. They left the building through the back. His phone was already blowing up. Dr. Dre, did that really just happen? 50 Cent, bro, you're trending #1 worldwide. Messages from artists he'd never met. Journalists requesting interviews. Lawyers wanting to help. But also 3 calls from unknown numbers. He answered the third one. Mr. Mathers, a voice he didn't recognize. Male, older, tired. My name is Robert Chen. I worked for James Kellerman for 15 years. What you said tonight about your father, about the blocking of opportunities, it's all true. I have documents, emails, recordings, everything. And I want to give them to you. Because what they did to you, they did to dozens of others. And it's time it stopped. Why now? Eminem asked. Why help me now? Could this be another trap? Was someone listening to this call? Because my daughter is 16. She listens to your music. She asked me last week why you're so angry, and I couldn't tell her the truth. That you have every right to be, that we tried to break you, and when we couldn't, we tried to erase you. Tonight, watching you expose it all, I realized I have a choice. The call ended. Eminem looked at his manager. This is going to get bigger. A lot bigger. Are we ready?
Are you?
His manager asked. Had his manager known this would spiral this far? What else hadn't he been told? Eminem thought about his daughter, about every young artist trying to make it without selling out, about everyone who'd ever been told they had to compromise to succeed. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. Over the next few weeks, the story exploded. Robert Chen released his documents. Thousands of pages. Emails dating back 15 years showing coordinated campaigns against dozens of artists. Spreadsheets tracking who'd been neutralized and who was still in play. Meeting notes discussing acquisition targets like they were talking about stocks, not human beings creating art. But the documents raised more questions than they answered. Who else was involved? How deep did this go? Other former employees came forward. A woman from Kellerman's PR firm described how they'd plant stories, pay anonymous sources, coordinate negative coverage. She had recordings of meetings where they'd laughed about destroying careers, but her testimony revealed something else. The PR firm had a sister company nobody had investigated yet. What did that company do? A junior executive came forward next. He'd been in quarterly meetings reviewing their portfolio. Which labels they owned, which artists they controlled. Eminem's name had been on that threat list for years, marked high priority acquisition. He brought financial records, money trails from shell companies in Delaware, offshore accounts in the Caymans, and one name that appeared on multiple transfers. Could this go higher than anyone thought? The FBI opened an investigation, but it wasn't just about Kellerman anymore. It was about the whole system. Wire fraud, extortion, racketeering, the kind of charges that could bring down an entire corporate structure. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Senators who usually didn't care about the music industry, suddenly very interested in how these monopolistic practices worked. Marcus Hayes' show was canceled within 48 hours. The network issued a statement about violated journalistic standards and failure to properly vet sources. Translation: they knew they'd been used as a weapon and were trying to distance themselves before the lawsuit started. 3 major executives resigned. Quiet departures, no press releases. Just suddenly not there anymore. Golden parachutes deployed. NDAs signed. Lawyers already circling. Kellerman, using his new identity as Robert Morrison, was arrested trying to leave the country. Private jet to Singapore, bags full of cash and hard drives. The hard drives contained everything. Every manipulation, every destroyed career, every artist they'd crushed. It was all there. Evidence that would keep prosecutors busy for years. And the media conglomerate behind it all faced a massive investigation into monopolistic practices. Artists started coming forward with their own stories. Similar tactics, similar threats, similar choices between selling out or being destroyed. A rapper from Chicago posted a video, 20 minutes long, describing how they'd offered him $2 million for his catalog, and when he said no, he couldn't get booked anywhere. Radio stopped playing his music. Within 6 months bankrupt. Within a year done with music. He'd thought it was his fault. Now he understood. It had all been coordinated. An indie singer from Nashville had recordings. Phone calls where an A&R rep threatened her, "Sign with us or we'll bury you." She posted them on Twitter. They went viral. More artists started sharing. The hashtag independent or dead trended. Stories from dozens, then hundreds of artists. The pattern was undeniable. This was systematic. A machine designed to extract value from creative people, and if they wouldn't submit, to destroy them. But these weren't just stories of victimization. They were stories of survival. Artists who'd been crushed and rebuilt. And now, seeing Eminem expose the machinery, they felt permission to speak. But here's what most people didn't know, what never made it into the news reports. Eminem had known about the FBI investigation for months. His refusal to sell wasn't just about independence. It was about keeping the company engaged, making them desperate enough to do something stupid, something public, something that would give prosecutors what they needed. The interview was the trap. Marcus was the weapon. But Eminem was the one who'd loaded it. His manager had been the anonymous source who tipped off NBC about Eminem being sick, knowing the network would push back, knowing it would create the exact situation they needed. The folder with his mother's maiden name? Eminem's team had leaked that detail to Kellerman's people, knowing they couldn't resist using it, knowing it would make their invasion of his privacy undeniable on camera. Every piece had been carefully placed, every move calculated. The ambush was real, but Eminem had been ready for it. More than ready. He'd been counting on it. 3 months later, the lawsuit settlement started. Millions paid out to artists who'd been targeted. Regulations proposed to prevent this kind of industry manipulation. And slowly, carefully, the system started to change. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Eminem kept making music, but now his lyrics had new layers. References to what had happened, to what he'd learned, to what he'd survived. Fans who'd followed the story heard those references and understood. Newer fans discovered them and went looking for the context. And the legend grew. There was one thing that never got explained, though. One detail that Eminem kept to himself. The photograph Marcus had shown. The party in 1994 with James Kellerman. In the corner of that photo, barely visible, was another person. Someone Eminem recognized, but whose face was too blurry for anyone else to ID. Someone who'd been there that night and had witnessed the first time Eminem said no to Kellerman. Someone who'd been watching this whole thing play out for almost 30 years. Eminem never said who it was. Never confirmed or denied the various theories. That was layer 5, the core truth. The mystery that would never be fully solved. Because some secrets are more powerful when they stay secret. Some questions are more important than their answers. Years later, in interviews, people would ask him about that night, about the Marcus Hayes ambush, about how he'd turned the tables so completely, and Eminem would smile that same knowing smile and say, "I grew up in Detroit." You learn early that when someone comes at you, you better know why. You better know what they want, and you better know how to take it away from them. Everything else is just details. The interview became a case study, a moment, a reminder. That truth, when spoken clearly and fearlessly, when backed by preparation and courage, can defeat even the most elaborate conspiracy. That one person armed with facts and unwilling to back down can change everything. That November night in 2009, Marcus Hayes thought he was destroying Eminem. What he didn't know was that he was giving him a platform, and Eminem took it. Because that's what he'd been doing his whole career, taking the worst moments and turning them into exactly what he needed them to be. Lessons. For everyone watching, for everyone fighting their own battles, for everyone who'd ever been told to shut up and play along. The answer was always no. And if they tried to destroy you for it, you destroyed them right back. With truth. With preparation. If you're smart enough, ready enough. If you refuse to be broken, you can turn their weapon into yours. And everything changes. Who do you think was in that photograph? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.